Good morning, I'm Craig Negrelli. It's Thursday, April 10th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. The Trump tariff reversal sends markets soaring. We have the early numbers from overseas to start Thursday, and the moves China is now making in response to 125% American tariffs. And more legal wrangling when it comes to the Trump administration's deportation of suspected members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua and the use of the Alien Enemies Act. Also, additional arrests to report this morning.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
This morning, Asian and European markets are rallying in response to President Donald Trump's decision to suspend tariffs on nearly all American trading partners for 90 days. Key Asian indices open today with notable recoveries, a reprieve after a week of turbulence and sell-offs driven by fears of escalating trade wars and possible recessions. Japan's Nikkei was up 8%, while the broader Topix index by more than 7.5%. South Korea's Kospi increased by nearly 6%, while Taiwan's TAIEX jumped more than 9%. And Australia's ASX 200 rose 4.6%. Even key Chinese markets were in the green, despite President Trump isolating and calling out China while raising tariffs on goods coming from the communist country well above 100%. Straight Arrow News reporter Kara Rucker has details on President Trump's latest move that sent the American markets soaring.
President Trump announced a 90-day pause on the full effect of his tariffs for most countries Wednesday, but not China. Trump saying via Truth Social the pause includes lowered reciprocal tariffs effective immediately for nations who have not retaliated against the U.S. in any way, shape, or form. The president announcing he's excluding Beijing because of what he deems a lack of respect for world markets. Instead, Trump says he's raising tariffs against China to 125% and wrote, at some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Trump says he came to the decision to pause tariffs on other nations due to more than 75 countries reaching out to the U.S. over concerns about tariffs announced on what he dubbed Liberation Day.
That was our Kara Rucker reporting. On Wall Street, the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P 500 futures are down this morning ahead of trading. China is reportedly now contacting other nations in an attempt to form a united front to compel President Trump to back off his tariffs. Chinese state media is reporting the country's premier had a phone call Wednesday with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, hoping to work together to, quote, strengthen communication and exchanges and deepen China-EU trade, investment, and industrial cooperation. The two countries are each other's largest trading partners. Meantime, all member countries of the European Union, except Hungary, voted Wednesday to impose tariffs on certain American products starting next week. That vote in response to an earlier set of U.S. measures, slapping 25% tariffs on European steel and aluminum. To Capitol Hill, in a move Speaker Mike Johnson says is just all part of the process, House Republican leaders delayed a vote on the Senate's multi-trillion-dollar budget framework meant to advance President Trump's domestic agenda after days of negotiations. The vote was supposed to be held Wednesday night, but it became clear it would not pass, with more than a dozen Republicans saying they would not back the bill. House GOP leaders continued to meet with holdouts late into Wednesday night and are reportedly considering tweaks to get them on board. Republicans hold a slim majority in the House and will need pretty much unanimous agreement to pass the budget, which sets the framework for new tax, immigration, defense, and energy measures. Viewed as a possible Democratic presidential candidate in 2028, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer was at the White House on Wednesday, and it was a bit of a mixed bag in terms of political twists and turns. She was there to talk about state issues, such as funding for an Air National Guard base. However, President Trump invited her into the Oval Office for a signing ceremony where he said the Democrat has really done an excellent job and is a very good person. She then stood in the back as the president signed executive orders directing federal agencies to revoke security clearances and review the activities of two high-level former government officials who questioned his claims of election fraud in 2020. Trump again said the election was rigged. One Democratic operative called the bipartisan photo op a disaster. Whitmer's spokesperson later said her presence was not an endorsement of the actions taken or statements made at the event. Earlier, Whitmer angered some fellow Democrats when making a policy speech. While commenting on President Trump's tariff policy, she said she was not against tariffs outright, and she understands Trump's motivation for imposing them. Two federal judges have now issued separate orders stopping the Trump administration from using an 18th century wartime law to deport Venezuelans accused of being violent gang members to El Salvador. The rulings out of New York and Texas came in direct response to a Monday U.S. Supreme Court decision that was a victory for the Trump administration. The Supreme Court ruled migrants subject to deportation under what's known as the Alien Enemies Act must be given notice before being deported so they can challenge it in court. However, the justices ruled those challenges must be issued in the places where the suspected illegal immigrants are being held. U.S. immigration authorities already deported more than 100 migrants to a notorious prison in El Salvador without letting them challenge their removals in court. Meantime, in a new development, the FBI in Mobile, Alabama announced the agency arrested 6 suspected members of Tren de Aragua on Wednesday, who are in the country illegally. In the Dominican Republic, more than 180 people are now confirmed dead after the roof collapse at a popular nightclub during a concert there Tuesday. Officials say rescuers have taken more than 150 survivors to local hospitals. Now efforts are shifting to recovery mode as hopes of finding more survivors dwindle. No one has been pulled from the rubble alive in more than 24 hours. The head of the country's emergency operations says crews will continue to work until the last body is found. The exact number of people inside the club at the time of the collapse remains unclear. The investigation into the cause of the catastrophe is ongoing. Finally this morning, as if his status as a legendary basketball player was not enough, it's now clear LeBron James is Ken enough. The NBA star is now the first professional male athlete to have his likeness depicted in a Ken doll. He's the first person to be featured in Mattel's new Kenbassador series. Since James is 6'9", the doll will be 1 inch taller than the standard Ken doll. James also collaborated with designers at Barbie to coordinate his Ken doll's look, which includes a blue and white LJ varsity jacket, a LeBron James Family Foundation We Are Family t-shirt, sunglasses, Beats headphones, and matching blue and white Nike sneakers. The doll officially goes on sale Monday for $75. I guess you could say the bobblehead is now old news. Those are your unbiased updates for this Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.